Good morning on the third day of our crazy trip to Japan and Osaka's World Fair, or Expo Osaka, or Osaka Expo, whatever it's actually called. Yeah, it's been 3 days. We've been here. Our first day was just a day full of travel, which was pretty nuts. We literally took off from San Francisco, had a pretty bumpy flight. It was a bumpy start, really. We were delayed by about an hour on the tarmac in SFO because of the weather. They made up for it in the air. We were only about 15 minutes late when we actually got here, so that was really cool. The food on the plane was actually not that bad. I had teriyaki beef. That was for the first meal. Then there was a sandwich, which I don't have any footage of. And then we got pancakes for breakfast, which was actually amazing. They're like rolled with jam, but other than that, getting to the airport was quite nice. You could see as soon as we landed at Osaka, there was a lot of people here, and everybody's here for the Expo, it feels. There was a lot of Expo stuff inside of the airport, which was kind of cool. We didn't get to really stay too long in the airport because we're delayed by everything. Also, getting through immigration at Osaka took forever. I'll have to check back in a moment here. It looks like Lynn's all set. She was getting her stamps for the stamp rally that they're doing here, and we are going to be going to try to go to Thailand right now, but we'll check back in a moment. All right, welcome back. So we've stepped over to Qatar right now, and we're going to try to go in. To continue with the story, after getting to the airport and taking forever to go through customs and immigration, we ended up finally getting out and going directly to our hotel. What kind of stank about that was I did pay for us to use the faster train, which was also a nicer, like, Charlie Brown themed train. And once we got to Namba Station, which is like the main station in the area, we got off, walked out, saw the area, walked over to the Osaka Metro station, which we needed to go to in order to get to our hotel. Why I say this kind of stinks is we actually had to come back to Namba, and we will do so later, but everything was pushed back by an hour now, and so we went over to the hotel, checked in, dropped off all of our stuff, and then immediately went out, and it was getting pretty late at this time. We were supposed to land at 2:30, but we ended up landing, or 2:45-ish I think it was, but we ended up landing at about 3. Immigration all said and done. We were out of the airport by about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So, anyhow, we're about to enter Qatar, so I will check back in a moment. All right. And welcome back. I am standing outside of Romania and the UK pavilions. Not that I'm going in, because there's a 3-hour wait for both. It's probably not 3 hours, but it's probably like closer to 2. Still, that's a long time. But to go back to the story, we were able to go check into our hotel, and I don't really recall how far I got from that, but right after checking in, we were starving, so we went to go get that's funny, Lynn just turned around. We went to go get dinner, and our first meal here was it's cute. There's a fan in front of me. Here, I could show you. There's a fan right there, and it's misting, and there's a little girl in front of me who's dancing in it. It's pretty cute. But we went to go get dinner, and we went to a matsuya. And so...
Fish and chips or scones?
Yeah, actually, those both sound good. Do you want to eat now? I was thinking we could do that, or...
We can picnic, but there's like no line at the booth. That's why...
All right, let's do it. All right. Yeah, that's fine. That's crazy because the UK booth has a 3-hour wait. Do you see the food has no one there? All right, cool. Sweet. Lynn, I'm just going to sit over here underneath the Reeves then. Anyhow, so we went to go get a meal at Matsuya, and that was right next to the hotel. The hotel is in Honmachi, and the place we wanted to go, or that I want to go see, was over in Namba, which we just came from, obviously. So the trip kind of sucked in the fact that we left Namba to go to Honmachi. It's 2 stations away. And then we left Honmachi to go back to Namba. And by this time, it was about 7 o'clock when we got to Namba. And the whole reason I wanted to go to Namba is I wanted to go to the Namba Osaka shrine. I don't know the name. I'll have to put it on the screen somewhere. But it's a famous shrine in the area that has this big demon head. Unfortunately, they close at 5. And that just... and that just wasn't going to work. Unfortunately, we got there, and even more than the fact that typically when a shrine's closed, you could still see it. Like, they don't have, like, they have low gates or something, and you could actually just see through it. For this one, they actually put, like, these big iron doors up and blocked all the entrances, which that was another thing I tried. Typically, they'll close one entrance. It's like, I'm trying to remember, like, I thought it was temples that they closed, and shrines typically were open 24/7. But this quote-unquote shrine was definitely closed. Too bad. We'll have to go back some other time, maybe. We'll see what happens. After that, we didn't want to waste our opportunity to go to the Dotonbori area, which is right next to Namba, since we were already there. We walked over to 551 for Lynn to grab some nikuman. What are they called? Pork buns. But fortunately, I guess, they came in too much, and we just ate. So Lynn grabbed shumai instead, which wasn't bad, and it wasn't great, but it wasn't anything to write home about. And then after that, we went to go walk Dotonbori and see all the cool boats and all the lights of the city. It was packed. Anyhow, we're about to sit down for some scones and fish and chips. So I'll check back in a moment. Back in a sec. And welcome back. I do wonder how well you're going to hear me, but we'll give it a shot. I'm walking under the ring, and I'm back to continue my story of how we're in Dotonbori. It's been years, probably even decades, since I was last at Osaka's Dotonbori. There was actually a huge fire where people actually were killed. It was a really sad event. So I just wanted to go see Dotonbori because I wanted to go see Guriko, but strangely enough, the fire was recent enough to where the building was still boarded up, and so it wasn't why we went. Like, the rest of it was really cracking. Tons of people. It was just good time all around. And so we got the 551 Horai shumai, which, like I said earlier, wasn't anything to write home about, but it was decent enough. And walked around, went and found a couple of geocaches. We went all the way to the furthest part of the Dotonbori street, so we actually did end to end. And then we were really tired, went home and passed out before waking up and coming to the first day of this Osaka World Expo. Yesterday was kind of a wash. When we got here, there really wasn't much that we could do. We didn't actually know all the different areas. And we've actually been told quite a bit that even if you were to come here for a month straight, you wouldn't be able to see everything. Not because there's that many things to see, but because you actually can't get that many reservations when you're here. An example is today I got lucky and I got one reservation. It's at 7:30 at night, and I'm not allowed to make any other reservations until I use it. It's like 3 o'clock right now. It is what it is, but that being said, yesterday, main goal was to see the United States. When we went, the guys that were in the line were like, yeah, come back at like 5 or 6 o'clock. Right now is not the time to wait for the United States. So we ended up going out, walking around. We went to Malaysia first, followed by the Commons, I believe, which all the Commons here are pretty amazing. Trying to get back to the Thailand, which is our main goal for today. Lynn is saying that we're actually moving in now. I will have to actually check back in a moment, but it's been fun. It's just been crazy with the amount of people that are here. It's, if you couldn't tell just by me walking, There's so many people here, and there's no rhyme or reason to see my set. There's no rhyme or reason to like how everybody is walking. Like typically you'd think everyone would walk on the left side or the right side. People are just walking wherever they could walk. Also, nobody's looking forward. Like, I'm looking beyond the camera so I see who's in front of me, but everybody's looking down at their phones, and this place is like kind of run by your phone, which I would really mark that as like a downside to the way that this place is run. Anyhow, I'll check back in a moment here. I gotta go find Lynn. Back in a sec. And welcome back as we chill here waiting for Lynn to get out of the ladies' room. It's a crazy long line. To go back to what I was saying about being at the Osaka World's Fair on the first day, it was a trip. Like, getting in here, so first off, I couldn't get the 9 o'clock ticket. I had to get a 10 o'clock ticket. And so we got the 10 o'clock ticket. We're waiting in line. We left the hotel at 8 a.m. Got here, and after buying breakfast and everything, we arrived here at about 9:30-ish, maybe a little earlier than that, like 9:15. And we went and waited in line. At 10 o'clock, they started letting our line through. And when they're letting our line through, we have to go through this huge security process. And they kind of follow what they say they're going to do, and they kind of don't. So it's really hard to kind of judge if what you're allowed in, what you're not. Best just be safe than sorry, though. Like, I left the drone at home. But we went through security. That took us about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We didn't get in until well past 10 o'clock. The first thing that we did was start walking around. We walked over to America. That was like one of the main goals that I wanted to see, since we spent so much taxpayer dollars on it. I wanted to see what we got. And walking up to the first time, they were just like, yeah, you don't want to wait for it right now. Come back at around 5, 6 o'clock. And so we then went over to France, which they were like, oh, it's at least a 2.5 hour wait. So we're like, okay. Typically it's never as long as they say it is, but we're kind of like put off by that. Went over the Philippines. They also had a 2 hour wait. Walked over to Malaysia, and it said that there was like an hour wait. We waited like maybe 45 minutes at tops and went right through. Malaysia was pretty amazing. Oh, on our walk in, the Sumitomo Pavilion had a raffle, and I thought I won 2 tickets to get in because it's by reservation only. And so that was at 12:30. So when we got into the Malaysia Pavilion, it's like we had to keep an eye on the clock. We got in, I want to say about like 11:30-ish, and walking around, it's really interesting. They had everything from historical Malaysia to modern day Malaysia and what they hope future Malaysia to look like. The historical and modern day were actually pretty cool, going through and seeing those little dioramas. That was actually pretty awesome. And then walking through, they had this like tree that went up the middle of the place, like the Tree of Life, I think it was called. That was actually really awesome to go walk around. They had like all this art and information around it. And so got to the bottom where they had actually like Malaysian food and Malaysian coffee and stuff like that, and we wanted to get some, but it was actually 12:30 at that point, and so we actually had to go back to the Sumitomo. And what had happened is I won a place in the raffle line so that we could partake in the raffle, and so we actually had to be there for that. And then we lost, and I was just thinking, man, we could have like waited for Malaysian coffee and food, and it was like kind of a lame way to set things up, because we then lost out on seeing the Sumitomo Pavilion, but also lost out on getting any of the snacks because you actually have to wait in line to go into Malaysia to do that. From there, I believe we went to one of the commons, and we were just walking around the commons area. And that was actually pretty cool. The common buildings here, it's A through E, I believe. They're actually pretty amazing. All the countries that couldn't afford like their own big old pavilion ended up doing one of the smaller booths inside of a common. And I think for the most part, a lot of them did a great job with the amount of space that they had. There's really, really no pressure into filling everything appropriately. I'm trying to think, where else did we go yesterday? It didn't feel like we did all that much. Oh, so after finishing up with Common B, I believe it was, like I said, we then went to try to get into, which one were we trying to get into? We tried to go to another country's pavilion, but it ended up you need reservations. They're a reservation only place. And kind of something stupid that I found out that I'm here, now that I'm here today, is that a lot of these places actually had a non-reserved area. And then now at the end of the trip, they're actually going into a reserved only type situation. So it like kind of irks me that if I just came earlier, I could have just not had to have a reservation, because the reservation system here is pretty piss poor. I don't know why they like it, or if they do like it, but the reservation system, similar to the one at the Star Wars event, it's almost guaranteed that if you didn't get in early and get it, you're just not going to get it. So we'll go more into that later. But anyhow, Lynn just got out of the restroom. We're going to be walking around a little bit. It's pretty crowded, as you could possibly see. Everyone walking around behind me. I am going to check back in a moment here. And welcome back. Clearly, I am in the hotel room right now. We left the event a little early today. Not by much, though. Just an hour before closing. Just wanted to kind of finish off what we did yesterday, and then I guess we will break into what we did today. So we kind of left off saying that I didn't remember what we did after Malaysia, so I actually looked it up, and what we ended up doing was we walked over to the Sumitomo building pavilion, and we were trying to get raffled in, which we lost. I do know that I mentioned that, but right next to the Sumitomo building is the NTT pavilion, which we were told by multiple people who work the event it's near impossible to get a reservation for that pavilion, but they do have a free outside portion of that pavilion, and that's what we did next. Was we walked over, Lynn saw the stamp, and we were doing kind of a stamp run for all the different stamps that were available. And Lynn also had like a stamp passport for the actual event that she was filling out. And so we went over to the NTT pavilion to get that stamp, and then found out, well, there's the free section to walk. So we went and walked it. It's pretty nice. They had mist being blown out. It was like all glass, and yeah, they had all these strings that had ribbons tied to them, as well as what the sides actually had ribbons tied to it. Oh, so Lynn's saying there were organza ribbons that were sheer that was tied to the side of the building. It was really pretty. And then you could actually go quite deep into the like free part of the building, and when you get to the deeper inside area, you could actually play notes. Some of the strings actually had a note associated with it, so if you touch the string, a note would play. And people were actually kind of trying to play music there. It was kind of fun. It was difficult for them because there was a lot of people looking at it and hitting random strings to play random notes, but it was pretty cool. We then walked through that over to, I think it was like the Life Pavilion or something like that, right, Lynn? It was right next to it because there was a ginormous ecosystem. Oh, maybe it was the Osaka Health Pavilion. It was whatever was right next to the NTT pavilion. Yeah, and you also need reservations for that. And I did mention earlier that this reservation system is ridiculous. The way that they do it, it requires that you put a lot of effort into making the reservations online. But the problem is that on the day of, when everybody's trying to make reservations, the system keeps crashing. And that's all it seems to happen. Or it'd be like, oh, there's availability. And then you'd scroll through and there was no availability. And I think I have some screenshots of that. I'm not 100% too sure and I don't really care. But that being said, I was able to get Australia for today, which we'll go to that when we actually get to that. After the health or whatever pavilion that was that had the ecosystem in front, which was this like sphere that had all these plants and everything in it. It was all contained within itself. And then on the bottom, there were on one side, what was it, tilapia? And then the other, they had sturgeon, and then they also had a fugu. And that was all on the bottom of that. And everything would help each other. So like the fish manure would help refertilize all the plants that were at the top, and then as it rained and the water came down, everything would come down through into the water in the bottom and purify everything. And so it was this cool little ecosystem that they had. And randomly while we were doing that, we kind of ran into like a Monster Hunter thing, and so we were like, oh, like there's Monster Hunter statues, and we kind of followed those around. We were also kind of looking for some food. Lynn found this weird, as I said, she was doing her stamp thing. She found this weird hand washing station where they use micro bubbles to wash your hand, which felt good. Like it was strange to think that you didn't need soap or whatever was the guy was trying to say. They were trying to explain it to us, but it was something that I was not getting. And so yeah, we did that, and then went over to get lunch at the food court area, and we found a ton of different foods. Like it was just, the food court was like Vietnamese, Korean, German, Turkish. I don't know what else was there. There was actually a ton of different ethnic foods there. And yeah, and Lynn wanted the Vietnamese food, so we went to the Vietnamese restaurant, and Lynn got I forget what it's called when it's the pho, the cold pho. So there's no soup, it's just the noodles with everything mixed in. You pour the sauce on it and you mix it. That was delicious. And then Lynn got a banh mi, and that was delicious. She got 2 coffees, she got 1 coconut coffee, I'm sorry, and then 1 melon soda. The reason I got that mixed up, because this morning we actually went to Vietnam and got a couple of Vietnamese coffees, but I'll get to that in a second. After eating lunch, we decided to go and kind of walk around, and we walked over to Korea, and they had a non-reserved line which you could go wait in, and it was supposed to take, I think it was like 90 minutes or something like that, and it ended up not taking 90 minutes. It went by really fast. So I was waiting in line, and Lynn went to go collect stamps as I was waiting in line, and I had to call her back pretty quickly because the line actually moved quite rapidly. Kind of goes to where I think it's ridiculous that they have this reservation system that they have, because for the most part, depending on how you planned your pavilion or the booth, you could actually walk through it quite quickly versus like having to really take your time or like be delayed. And there are a few things that kind of delay people: movies, music, anything that has to have an explanation. Like if someone's there talking to you, that's definitely going to slow you down. I digress. So we waited in line and got into the Korean pavilion, where we were then walking around, and we were quite quickly able to go through. And it's interesting because the first thing you do is you say, they ask you to be part of an AI music score, and they say, what's the most precious thing to you in like your life? And so it's just like, or what's the most precious thing to humanity or whatever, or to everybody. And I think we said humanity. And so we walked over after that into a empty room that had all these lasers, I guess you'd call them, really strong spotlights. And everybody that said something, it all came out and turned into a song, and there was like a laser light show that was happening. That was pretty neat, but that definitely took a little bit of time. I want to say it was at least 3 to 5 minutes. And then we walked into the next room where I believe they had technology from Korea where if you like spoke into these pipes, it would create bubbles. The CO2 from your spoken word would create bubbles and they would fall onto kind of this like rock structure, plant life maybe. I'm not really 100% too sure what was going on there. And then we got led into a third room, and if I'm recalling correctly, this was the final room in the Korean pavilion. And this was the like use of AI to finish a song that a girl's grandfather who passed away was only halfway done with, and they're kind of showing like the process and the steps. It was neat. It was nothing too crazy, but and I don't think I actually have any footage of it because it was a movie, so that was again another like 3 to 5 minutes. So you're sitting on the ground watching it, and then once you exit that, you go into the gift shop and restaurant. And although we waited about like we just ate like an hour, maybe an hour and a little 15-20 minutes earlier, when we went in, we saw that there was a Korean chicken, pajian, the seafood pancake that they make, as well as makuri. So I got all that and a chilsung cider, and then we went and kind of just sat down and ate that, and that ended up kind of being our dinner for the night. It was about like 4 o'clock ish at that time, and so we then went over to this is when we went over to the commons area. And I know earlier I said Commons B, but I actually don't remember which common area it was because we actually didn't go to Commons B or C yesterday because we went to them today. I'll have to look at Lynn's passport to know which one we went to because we went to the first one for this special stamp rally series that you had to do to go by going to Commons A through D, I think. A, B, C, D, E. A through E. And they each have like one stamp that builds upon itself and it creates like a completed piece of work at the end of it. And so we went to one to collect one stamp for Lynn, and then we walked around the inside a little bit. And these common pavilions are kind of nice because you could get through them really quickly. Like I believe we spent about an hour inside of this common area or the common pavilion, and it was just going in and out of various smaller countries. I mean, examples I could give, and I know this wasn't it because I went to it today, was Zimbabwe, Uruguay, Somalia, a bunch of the smaller African nations like Tanzania and Mongolia, which over next to China, which was pretty cool. And so they had all these easy to get into. A lot of them were very creative. Some of them not so much. Like the ones that was just like a antique vomit, that wasn't really all that great. Quite a few of the African nations just had like, these are all the things we make, and then it's just like kind of a souvenir shop, and they're kind of trying to pawn them off on you as you go through. It's like, all right, I get what you're trying to do, but at the same time, it's like, all right, yeah, like, is there more to your culture than this? Because that's kind of what we're here to learn. I will say that I've been told that there's a huge propaganda type piece for this, and personally, I didn't really feel it. I saw some of the things that were kind of propaganda, like if you wanted to go there, going to America, there was some propaganda there, like Trump speaking and everything, and I do have some of like Trump in his speech and what they're trying to do and the walls and everything. But for the most part, I think it's a good advertisement of like why you should travel there. And Korea is a good example. They had that Visit Korea logo, which is from their tourism board, all over their booth, their pavilion. And as they should, they had come to Busan, come to Jeonju, come to Jeju, like visit Seoul. They had Jenny doing like my soul, and they did a real good job advertising going to Korea. And I feel that a lot of these smaller booths in the commons did a great job of like driving interest into going. Like the Dominican Republic I saw today, that was one that like was key to me. Jamaica, that was really cool. There's just a lot to be said for a lot of these smaller areas that really don't get too much love. And so it was, after spending about an hour in there, it was about like 6-ish. We decided to go back, and we know that the America said to go back at 5, but we decided to go back around 6, got in line, and waited. They said it was going to be a 2-hour wait. It was about a 90-minute wait, like a solid 90 minutes. And getting into America, I wanted to see where all this money was spent, because a ton of money was spent on it. I think it was like $8 million is what I heard. And it did not look like an $8 million booth is the problem. Going in, it was neat. They tried to hold the theme of the last time America had their booth at the World's Fair here in Osaka, and that whole time was dedicated to NASA and space. So there was a huge space portion of it, and the only thing I could really think is that we did have like a kind of speech prepared by one of the astronauts from outer space from on the International Space Station that was actually recorded and sent and played at the pavilion. That was really cool. All the different little spaceship models that they had, that was really cool. Maybe the song that they did this like "We're Amazing" type song, which is it does it no justice. It was actually a decent song with a catchy tune. And they had the main mascot of America was a star, this animated star that jumped around and sang, and it was pretty fun. Like that part was all good. I do find it funny, like when I was going into like the propaganda type stuff, there was a speech that Trump gave that you're kind of like watching as you enter, and then down some certain halls they had this like youth programs that I'm like, do we still do that now with all the cuts that we have? Not to get political in a video, but it's a little different, and that part felt like propagandy. Like, okay, are we as good as we're saying we are? And I mean, I guess you put your best foot forward, but I don't think you have to lie about it. There's so many great things about America to begin with anyways. So anyhow, we finished up and came out, and it is for the most part a guided tour. There is a person in every room that you go to. They have something that they say to you, and then they kind of shoo you into the next room. And so some rooms had videos, some rooms had like a little speech and like Q&A session. Really felt like a Disneyland, like the Haunted Hotel beginning or something like that. It's really well done. I'm still kind of wondering where the $8 million was spent, but like, doing that, I guess maybe if they had to go with some sort of company to do certain things, they could have charged more. I know it like typically costs about like $300 to change a light bulb at certain events, but those are like in highly controlled, unionized like worker areas, which I don't know if Japan is or not, but I digress. Well, coming out of the event, we ran into two of the workers where Lynn was like super curious as to how they got the job here and went and asked. And one was an ex-state volunteer, worked at in DC under the State Department, and the other was actually a student that went to a local university here nearby, Kansai Kaigai something another. It was like a very tiny school, not really well known, that is set between Kyoto and Osaka, so in the Kansai region. And they were both having a great time, both younger, both actually graduated from college already, though, I will say that. And just taking advantage of the fact that they could be here and work in Japan for 6 months under a visa, and then on their days off, they could go travel around Japan. They haven't really taken too much advantage of that yet. We didn't really get into too much of how much they're paid or if their like room and board was covered or whatnot. The only thing we really found out is that they could come to the convention or the expo as many times as they want on their days off. There's no restrictions. They still need to get reservations, which they both were like, yeah, NTT Pavilion's like impossible to get reservations for. That was another one. It was just a super good conversation between them and us. And then when we came home, we actually closed the park. So coming home was a pain because everybody that was leaving at that same time. There had to have been like tens of thousands of people leaving along with us. And just as an FYI, I don't remember what the complete number was, but they put that it was 235,000 people attended yesterday. So more than 235,000. It was 235 XXX. I don't remember the last three numbers, but that many people attended the World Expo yesterday. And so we got to go home with a ton of them that were all leaving via train. We came back to the hotel, came upstairs, took our showers, and just passed out. All that to say, why don't we go ahead and cut into a room tour real quick that I'll do right now because I forgot to do it yesterday. So let's go ahead and get that going. All right, so the elevator is right around the corner right there. And then we are staying in room 816. And as you come in, it's not the biggest of rooms, but I would say this is your standard Japanese room. And right here immediately is the restroom, your standard fare. Does have a segregated sink and a bath faucet, which is kind of nice. So, and then it does have the advanced toilet, which is always nice. But yeah, pretty small. This is actually our last night here, so we've actually already used everything at least once. And then coming out, we have the full-size mirror, coat hanger, our two beds, and then this is kind of where our setup is. I have my luggage on a chair. The chair actually goes right over underneath the desk over there. We have the fridge right there, our safe, my tech pack, and this is like everything exploded so far. I have my drone right there. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the room. We do have the TV and AC right there. Room's set to 22 degrees right now. It's feeling all right, Alan?
Yeah.
And then here is the window. Not much of a view. It is the wall of the building next to us. So, oh, there is an exhaust vent over there. And so, close that to keep the light out. There's the AC. We do have very tall ceilings, which is kind of nice. And yeah, that's the room. All right, back to the talking head. All right, and welcome back. So yeah, the room is standard rooms. Nothing to write home about. The beds are comfy. That's kind of nice. It's not too expensive. We're actually checking out tomorrow way early in the morning. We have another early wake up call. So the first day wasn't that bad. It was 8 o'clock. Today was 7 o'clock, and tomorrow will also be 7 o'clock. Now, today we went back to the World Expo. And getting there now, we actually had kind of a plan ahead. So last night, we actually bought a bunch of breads for breakfast. I still actually have one right here. We bought a bunch of bread, everything preloaded, filled up our backpacks, made sure we were ready to go. And then at 7 o'clock, we woke up, got ready. We're out of this place by about 7:45, onto the train. It's just right around the corner. Made our way into Umeshima, Dream Island, to get off and go wait in line. I ate while we're in line and drank while we're in line and went through security. For the most part, everything was super smooth. Got into the pavilion or into the area, and I told Lynn, I think the first thing we should do is go to France and just try to go wait in line and get through it. We walked over and saw that there was a 3-hour wait already at like 9:30. It took us a half an hour to get in, or 45 minutes, I guess, to get in. And so Lynn's like, yeah, I'm not digging France that much. So we ended up going right next to it, which was Vietnam, ironically. And we walked into Vietnam, and that was amazing. Like, they had a bunch of their culture in the front room. So food, instruments, dance, all in the front room, as well as like agriculture. Well, I guess that's part of food, right? They were explaining like instruments to Lynn. That was real cool. There was this instrument where like you clap at the end of it, and it's a bunch of pipes, and the air when you clap pushes out through the other end and makes a note. then we walked on through to kind of learn about like their modernization and how technology were increasing in Vietnam. That was really neat. And walking beyond that, they had a small kind of food stall inside of Vietnam. You weren't actually allowed to eat or drink in the pavilion, and it was kind of funny because they had a huge sign that said that although they were selling everything there. I mean, I guess later on we go to Thailand, and surprise, surprise, they too have Thai food, and they weren't allowing people to eat in the pavilion. So we bought a banh mi and a couple of coffees, one with condensed milk, one without, and went outside, and there was a couple of benches, and we just sat down and drank our coffee. Lynn said that she wasn't feeling the banh mi because we just ate while we were in line, and that was fine. And so we drank the coffee. The coffee without the milk, the chicory flavor was intense, and to me it kind of tastes like mint chocolate coffee, which was kind of nice. And we finished that up, went right next door to, I believe it was United Emirates Estates, or was it Oman? I think it was Oman. Gosh, which was it? We went right next door to... No, I think it was UAE. I want to say it was UAE. That was the cool one that had all the palm trees where they used the husk and everything for everything inside. And it was like all these crazy cool tall poles that had this, that they're surrounded by palm wood. And as you walked in, there was all these different interactive stations. There was a real cool area where like the screens would move and it would give you certain types of information. That was really neat. There was a station where they had different sands from different areas. God, I'm wondering if it was that or Saudi Arabia. I want to say it was the United Emirates though. And they had sands from different areas, and depending on what was in the sand or where the sand was from would show what was what. So it'd be like the reddish sand had a lot of iron in it, so they knew it was from a certain area of the nation. And then the like their Dubai, yeah, because the guy said he was from Dubai, so that area had a very specific type of sand that he was aware of. And the information they passed was really interesting. Like, he was talking about how they got around on camels. The idea of moving fast in the heat is actually a bad one. Like, it's contrary to belief. You'd think that if like you could run to get out of the heat faster, it'd be better for you, but it's actually better to just walk as slowly and sturdy as possible, so that way you're not burning excess energy, which was really interesting. At least that's how he explained it. Then we went to the, like, it was interesting because we actually just went from pavilion to pavilion to pavilion, like just kept going to the ones next to the other ones. And then I'm trying to remember where we went to right after that. Actually, I'll be right back. Give me a moment here. I'm just going to check my phone and figure that out because I forgot. All right, and welcome back. So yeah, that was definitely the UAE. I've just checked. And after going to the UAE, we then went to Qatar. And that was a very impressive booth as well. The booth itself was like a tent type of deal. Like, it's funny because Lynn was like, everything in here feels like Dune. And yeah, everything in there did feel like Dune. The tent felt like it was something out of Dune. The imagery, all the different buildings and everything that they had. Yeah, and they have like the... God, I'm gonna call them chimneys, the air conditioning chimneys, where like they have the water at the base and the chimneys that come up so that the heat like sucks the cold air in through the building, I believe it is, or it blows through the building, and they're built a certain way. Yeah, it's ancient refrigeration. That was really cool. I'm not gonna say that my geography is the best, but I didn't know how much water Qatar was near. That was actually another thing that they had, like a huge shipping industry and a huge pearl industry. That was crazy. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Like, they had these weird maps where Lynn and I were kind of like giggling because it looked like they had a bunch of butt plugs all over the maps. But what those little what do you call them? Meeples? Yeah, they're indicators is what they were. They were like little weird looking things. I can't really... Yeah, symbols, I guess you could call them. They were all over the maps, and they would signify whether it was like an agricultural item, a cultural item, some sort of historic... Yeah, heritage, culture, hospitality, and industry are the the main ones that were there, and they'd show where it was coming from, and that was really neat. And then they had a whole kind of video of like where they're currently at and where they see their technology going in the future, which is really cool. Yeah, and Lynn just thought that everything there looked a lot like Dune, and this is why I made the mistake. I'm looking at my phone. We actually went to Qatar first, and then we went to United Emirates. That's why I got it backwards. We didn't go to Emirates first and then Qatar, so swap that. And then after going to Emirates, we actually walked out. We wanted to see Thailand. That was like the main thing. Yeah, we just kept whatever was open and available at the moment, we just stumble upon or go into. And so we actually walked between two commons, and Lynn noticed a stamp series that she went to go get when I actually stumbled upon the whole misting area. So we're like in the center area of the World Expo, and there's a lot of mist that pops out, and I kind of got some decent footage of it, I think. But it was just, and it felt great because it wasn't boiling hot, but it wasn't cool either. So it was definitely warm today. Thank God it was somewhat cloudy, so the sun wasn't beating down too hard, but you could definitely feel it, right, Lynn?
Yeah, whenever the clouds parted, it beat
Yeah,
pretty hard.
yeah,
like you
like
feel it.
So, and then we went over to the jellyfish pavilion that was right next to the misting thing. Lynn just walked right up because there was no line, and straight up, yeah, we just walked right in. Anyhow, we walked up to the jellyfish area, which has a ton of like kids things, so little instruments made out of junk. Yeah, it was called the Jellyfish Playground, and like kids could like stomp on things or beat on things, and it was like, yeah, it was packed. There are reservations for arts and crafts there, and people were making like hand weaved baskets and stuff like that, which was cool. But we didn't have any reservations, and there was just a ton of kids there playing, so I don't have too much footage of it. I think that was just kind of creepy with an old dude just filming kids. So I just did one quick sweep of everything that was going on, which there was a lot there, and then we exited out before going over, and I had to use the restroom, so we walked over to these weird looking restrooms. I didn't film it, but it was right next to the Knowles Square. Yeah, it was right next to the Knowles Square pavilion, which that was like another almost impossible reservation area to get. And the Knowles Square, it's like this silver box or series of silver boxes that all have these huge speakers inside of them, and it played tons of music, and you could actually like shapeshift while you're inside and stuff like that. And I got a little bit of footage of the outside of that before walking over to the water show area. There was no water show going on, but it had a real good exposition of the ring on the water. That was really cool, or a real good photo that I could make. And so I went to go make a photo there real quick. And after finishing up in that area, like Lynn and I got separated when we went to go use the restrooms because the men's and the women's were actually not right next to each other. They're actually a little bit of distance. I think it was men's, family, and then women's, if I recall correctly. That's why. And so when I was sitting over at the ring area, Lynn was actually looking for me, and it ended up like she eventually found me. But we walked over from there over to the UK, where I thought that it was just going to be too much like of a wait to get into the UK, and Lynn was like, she ran into the dude while one of the guys that was working there when she was getting the stamp, and he's like, "Would you like fish and chips?" And she's like, "Oh, like I'm not gonna wait." And he's like, "No, it's like you could get it right now."
Is that just a table booth and stacks of food?
It was just
like fish and chips.
Yeah, so it was like a guy hawking his wares like right in the front of the pavilion, which is ironic. But he did catch Lynn's attention, and so she went and bought one box of fish and chips with mushy peas and one box of scones, with clotted cream and jam. And we went and sat down right in front of it and ate right there. It was probably one of the better dishes, period, that we've had at the pavilion. It was just solid. And it was nice because it wasn't like the Korean chicken was a little cold and the pajien was a little burnt. This was like freshly fried, so everything was nice and crispy still. The sauce was really good, and the mushy peas was really good.
Wasn't expecting it to actually be good because it was just sitting there, but I think they sold through things so quickly.
Yeah, that they're just replacing. Yeah, exactly. So it was nice. And then right after that, we got up to go walk around again, and at this time, I think we walked over to the first commons that we did today. So we did 3 commons today, and I'm not going to remember which one. No, I'm sorry. That's right. So we walked in 2 commons today, and we walked in front of one to get a stamp. And did you get, how many stamps were total for the, 6. It was 6, so you got 3 yesterday then?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Not all 6.
Did we visit 3 uncommons yesterday? Or common, whatever?
No, common.
Oh, that's
so
why.
The first one
Gotcha. Okay, so Lynn was able to get a couple of them before even entering the commons. But we did go through 2 commons today. And both those commons are actually really cool. They had a lot, yeah. Lynn's saying that they had a lot going for them, and I agree. Like I said earlier, there's just so many different areas inside of the commons. Pakistan was... Actually, that's kind of surprising thinking about it. Like, how big Pakistan is as a country, that they did just a small booth like that. But it was really cool. Their main thing was, like, I don't even want to call it, is it Himalayan salt? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Pakistani salt? Yeah, so it was Pakistani salt. It was just, like, the pink salt that you'd see that's expensive at stores. And they had a ton of it. What was really cool is when I was going in, I was chit-chatting with the guy. They had the longest line out of the common room areas, and I was chit-chatting with the guy that was kind of running it, and to find out that this was kind of his deal. He goes and advertises Pakistan as a country wherever he can, and he does these type of booths and whatnot, which I thought that was pretty cool that they have a guy that's on the tourism board that actually does that. I'm trying to think of other things that we saw in there. It was just, they're all cool. Like Zimbabwe was cool, and I said that earlier. And they actually had. There was a chocolate maker in there. Who was that? I can't remember. Was it Paraguay or something?
No, it was like
okay. It was the Cote d'Ivoire or something like that.
But what was cool is they drew you in because everything smelled like chocolate.
Yeah. And then they actually, and then they actually said that they're like, oh, chocolate making in the center over there, and that was really cool. So they had some neat things that were going for the commons, and the commons were packed, and I'm pretty sure the commons were packed only for the fact that no one could get reservations for the actual pavilions. And if they're getting like 200,000 plus people, that's why. Like, that's ridiculous. There's no system that's gonna work like that. And the worst part about it is that if you're willing to wait in line, I don't see why they won't let you. And like, what I found out was later on we're gonna go to the Gundam and Persona pavilions, just to the front of them to see the outside. But both of them used to take non-reservations, and just because they felt like it, they stopped taking reservations. The Persona was like, because of weather, we're not allowed to. I'm like, it's like gorgeous outside. I don't know what they're talking about. They could have totally taken non-reserve. But anyhow, I digress. Once we left the first common that we went to today, we were actually walking towards Thailand. And as we were walking towards Thailand, I'm like, Lynn, we need to take a break. Like, I needed to sit down. And Lynn's like, yeah, she agreed. She wanted to sit down too. And so we ended up at a small food truck court area where we sat down, and Lynn went and got, she was gonna get ice cream and shaved ice, and because I wanted the shaved ice, but Lynn was like, she's not hungry enough to eat the ice cream, and she'll eat the banh mi at this point. And so we went and sat down and ordered the shave ice, a special soda. What soda was that? Yeah, Expo soda and Expo fluffy ice. And the Expo fluffy ice wasn't really anything to write home about. It was just shave ice with like strawberry and blueberry flavoring on it, and then they put a ring of whipped cream with some M&Ms on top. Yeah, I would have much rather had like either the strawberry or the mango, but it is what it is. The banh mi Lynn got was also just meh. Like, it was probably the worst thing we've actually ate at the expo. And then the soda was good. That was kind of nice. Like it was like a melon soda with like cream in it, which was nice. And so we finished up there, and then made our way over. We were actually already walking over to Thailand. We were super close at this time. We walked through the Tranquility Park, I think it's what it's called, in the middle of the area, again, next to the mist and everything. And so it was actually, we were like right outside of the park. We found the food trucks right there and then walked around the corner to Thailand where, again, we saw it was supposed to be like a 2-hour wait, right? And Lynn's like, "Oh, I'll wait in line if you want to go walk around." And that's when I walked over to the Gundam area and the Persona area, as well as finding the Yoshimoto Pavilion, which they actually had comedians from Yoshimoto doing like acts on the outside on a stage, which was kind of cool. So it's like they kept saying there was some sort of event going on today, and that's really the only event thing that I could possibly think of that was happening. But yeah, that was really it. But that being said, we then, Lynn called me back because she's like, "Hey, the line's moving really quickly. You got to get back." And I think I was probably away maybe an hour at most. Yeah, and so Lynn says it was about 90 minutes. I think it was actually, yeah, I think it was faster than that because they're moving in huge groups of people. So they just have a bunch of people come in and then they do the thing and then they'd have a bunch of people and then as you moved to each stage, they have more and more people come in. We got to Thailand, and funny enough, as we were going in, they were doing a Thai dance out on the stage in front, which I have to applaud Thailand for doing that. That drew in a ton of people, and so people would just randomly see it, is what Lynn was saying, and then they'd walk over and be like, "What's going on?" And whereas Spain had the same stage, but it was all the way in back of the pavilion, and the only reason that Lynn and I knew this was when we went on top of the ring to go walk around after Thailand, we actually saw that Spain had like Spanish dancing and bullfighting stuff happening on their stage, but no one could see it, and they had like no crowd whatsoever. Whereas Thailand had a huge crowd just gathering out front, and this is on top of the fact that they had the huge line of people trying to get into Thailand. And so we got into Thailand. The first thing we do is you walk in and they teach you some basic Thai words: hello, Thailand, and take it easy. And it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. And then we walked into the first theater room and they played like, it was almost a trippy video. It wasn't really like, it wasn't like something, it was an advertisement for, yeah, it was definitely a tourism video for Thailand. Like they showed Thai kickboxing, they showed Thai dancing, Thai food, and the theme, I guess I should say, is that it's wellness, like Thai wellness, curing with like herbs and stuff like that. So as well as medicine, I guess you could put, because it wasn't just stuck to like this, what do you call it, Eastern medicine. They actually had like Western technology as well, and they displayed it all over the place. Oh, it also included a lot of Thai classical instruments, which I noted. They didn't play the kiam. Did you notice? It's like the instrument I used to play, which was really funny. After the video was done, again, that was about maybe 3 minutes. We then were walked into a room that had all sorts of Thai medical treatments and foods, and they tried to combine the two, like how Thai food, it's like helps you medically on top of being just healthy for you. And it was super interesting to see all the different types of technology that they had. They had a robot called Pencil. In there, they had like replacement bone parts that they used certain types of metal alloys to create the bone. And then they had like this whole like tea area where you could sniff different tea bags for different flavors of tea. They had like different types of Thai food. They showcased like galanga and like Thai herbs and stuff like that. Yeah, and bergamot, which we didn't know what that was until we finally saw it. And then after that, we went into kind of, they had the Thai restaurant that I mentioned earlier, the Thai area where they were cooking food. They only had like 5 or 6 different dishes. Khao soi is the only one I remember. Oh, I think they had tom yum as well. Did they have som tam? Mm-hmm. They had som tam, Lynn was saying, and grilled chicken. Yeah, and then they had Thai tea and Thai coffee, but I didn't actually get either. We did buy souvenirs for our cousins and ourselves. Actually, I have one right here. That is the Thai pavilion with the Thai mascot that they had. This was the guy that was teaching you Thai. And realize, speaking behind a little poster in front of my head, you probably can't hear anything I'm saying. That was the mascot standing in front of the Thai pavilion. One of the coolest things about the Thai pavilion, and this was like genius on their part, it was a lot larger inside than it felt from the outside. And part two to that, they only built half of the roof that you see, like the traditional Thai roof for the pavilion, and the other half was just a big mirror, so it would reflect the two sides of the roof, making it look like a whole building, which was awesome. Oh yeah, there was a whole thing about meditation and all that, so reflection, I could see that. I'm not gonna dig too deep into it. But
design is smart.
Yeah, it was just a good design is what I'm saying. So that was well done. We bought the souvenirs and then took off to go, where did we go after Thailand? Yeah, we went to the Commons again. That was the second time we went to the Commons. This time it was because, oh no, we went to the ring. No, we ate. That's what we did. We went across the ring from Thailand. You go under the ring and across, and there's an entire food court. And at the food court, I was able to get the fried foods that we weren't able to get on the first day. That was the one thing we want to do, but it was way too late and we're way too tired to actually do it. So I just bought it at the expo. And then the other thing that I bought was beef bowls, which were kind of nice, except these were kind of higher end beef bowls, like beef tongue and yakiniku, barbecue beef plates, I guess you could call them. They were beef bowls. It's just beef on rice at the end. One was actually a special thing that was for this event only. I have no idea why. It was beef that was seasoned in this kind of like sweet soy sauce, and then it had a strip of eggs. And then on the other side of the eggs, it was mustard greens that were fermented. And I thought it was delicious. Lynn didn't like the mustard greens. I think the eggs and the beef were probably her favorite part of that meal, though. And then, I got a regular tongue and barbecue beef bowl that was okay. It was a little tough. Everything was sitting there. I saw him just grab it and hand it to us, so it was probably sitting there for a little while, is the unfortunate part. Luckily, though, the fried foods were all fresh. They came fresh out of the deep fat fryer. They were super friggin' hot. The only thing I kind of miss is that we didn't have the cabbage that we would have if we went to the restaurant, but we went outside and picnicked our late lunch, I guess you could say, or was that dinner? Because I don't remember eating after that. That was pretty much dinner for us, and that was, I guess that was kind of an early dinner. I think that was like 4:30-ish. We then went up to the ring, and that's when we saw like this Spanish thing going on, and going, oh wow, we didn't even know that they were having anything going on. Not that the line for Spain was small. The line was also long for Spain. I'm just thinking that they could have had more of an audience if they just moved their stage. Spain's design was interesting. It was like a very large, maybe like Spanish steps. Maybe that's what they were playing on. It was very like large, I don't even know what to call them, like theater platforms that led up into the pavilion. It reminded me of the Spanish Steps in Rome, which I know that's kind of a funny term to say, but that's where they are. Anyhow, we went up, walked around. Oh, and while we were doing dinner, I was applying for reservations, like just trying randomly, and I got Australia for 7:30. And so I'm like, all right, we have some time to kill. What should we go do? And Lynn was like, oh, she wanted to go see the Gundam and the Astro Boy at Persona. I was like, okay, let's go up the ring first and just walk our way around, which is what we did. And as we walked over, Lynn's like, oh, I want to go get the rest of the stamps that I need for the passport. And so we ended up coming back down off of the ring and walked over to the Commons area, where one had the stamp in front, so Lynn could actually just go stamp it. And then the last one she got was inside the Commons, so we actually went into that one. While Lynn was getting her stamped, I just walked around all the other common ones. It's like strange thinking about it now. Like, it's so much of a blur. We saw so many booths today, the pavilions. Like, yesterday feels like a waste in comparison to today. Yeah, we saw so many booths. The one that stands out today for me is there was Laos, I'm sorry. There was Somalia, bunch of like Djibouti and stuff like that. those little places, and it was just such a pleasure to walk through all of them. The one thing I will say is, like, as working as a field marketer or event marketer, one thing that irks me is when the person that's running the booth's just sitting in the back on their phone. Like, do your job. Like, you're supposed to be advertising your country, and not as like a propagandist, I guess you could say, but just to say, hey, this is what we're about. This is who we are as a people. I guess it is what it is, but that did happen a couple of times where I was just like, oh, they're just sitting in the back of the booth doing nothing. That kind of sucks. Yeah, there was quite a few booths that had like traditional instruments, weird looking drums and stuff like that, where they'd invite people to like play with them, or they'd have I don't know, like the pieces of wood that would be like different lengths tied on string and then hung in the air on another piece of wood. That was actually kind of cool. But yeah, that was really neat. And then right after we finished, like, we spent about an hour in that common, and then came out. I'm like, okay, well, if we want to go to the Gundam, it's just right across the way. So we walked over to see the Gundam pavilion from the outside, and then Lynn went to go get the stamp for it. And then we went over to see the Persona, the Astro Boy one, and Lynn got the stamp for that. And then I kind of was like, I'd like to leave a little early today, so I was hoping that we could actually go to the souvenir store right now before we go over to Australia for our reservation at 7:30. It was about 6:15, 6:30ish, and we went and stood in line. It was a long line. Like, we figured we might not have made it at the end, really, was what I was thinking. I was like, man, I'd hate to have to like just step out of line after getting so close. So apparently it was from 6:32 to 7:08, and we bought a ton of souvenirs for people, for ourselves and people back home. And then once we bought all those souvenirs, we actually exited the place. The souvenir store was crammed, packed full of people. It was uncomfortably packed full of people. And, like, it just made me not want to go through certain aisles to go buy things. So I just, like, picked up what I could see and then just moved on. As soon as we got out, walked over back to Australia, getting there at about, like, it was like 7:19. We're sitting down, and I'm like, Lynn, as you're sitting, I'm just going to go ask Australia what we need to do in order to get in. And I went and told the girl that we're, like, at 7:30, and she's like, oh, we're Australian, we don't care. You just come on in now if you like. I was like, all right. Went and grabbed Lynn. She's like, as long as you pull up your QR code, you're good. I pulled up our QR code, and we went over and scanned in and then walked through. And ironically, that was maybe like 7:25ish, and we were leaving like 5 minutes past our our scheduled time. Yeah, it only took us 10 minutes to get through the whole thing. So you enter, and it's these awesome eucalyptus trees, and some of them have like, there's all these mirrors to make it look like there's a lot more. And then some of the trees actually have like screens embedded in them. Yeah, you could see wildlife like climbing through them and stuff on the mirrors. And so that was pretty cool. Or maybe the mirrors were not mirrors, maybe they were screens. I don't know how they did it, right? But anyhow, that's what the feel was like. That was pretty neat. I think one of the nice things about the reservation thing was that it was pretty empty when we were going through. There was like no one there. So we just walked through. Maybe that was also kind of weird. They should have had more people waiting to get in, and we were walking through. There was like 10 of us, and so we then walked over to the next room, which was a video display. We watched the video display of all different forms of wildlife from Australia, starting from like freshwater streams and everything, and working our way out to the ocean and going deep into the ocean. It was pretty interesting. Like, it was just a bunch of different sea life deals, I think. And then at the very end, they did like regular wildlife in Australia, like eagles and stuff like that. And that was all really cool. Oh, I didn't mention, this is a throwback. When we came out of the last thing we did in America was we walked in to watch a rocket ship get launched into space. That was the last thing. It was this huge 3 walls that had projections on them, and then one wall that was a mirror. And so it was like you're getting launched into space, and the whole idea is that we're going to try to go back to the moon with I think it was Artemis, right, Lynn? The Artemis series. But again, that was America. going back to Australia, they didn't really time it out too well to where they let you into the room. So when we actually got in the room, we were halfway through the wildlife video. And so we actually had to stay a little longer in order to see the first part of the wildlife video. And so that's what Lynn and I did. After that, it was just exit it was just to exit. It was really fast. Both of us thought it'd be longer considering that you needed reservations, but it is what it is. And after that, we're just like, well, let's go home. And so we kind of just took off. It was kind of worrisome with the amount of people that are leaving with us. While we were waiting in line to go into the souvenir shop, the fireworks show happened. So caught a glimpse here and there of it. Not as good as yesterday when we were like straight up like, well, we're gonna watch the fireworks show right now, and we're in a good spot. And then as we were leaving from Australia, they were doing the drone show. So we could see the actual drone in the sky, and they're doing all sorts of crazy things with it. That was really cool. I didn't get any footage or photos of it, though, because we were walking out. Like, I was ready to leave. We hopped on the train, came back, and now we're here. It's almost 11 o'clock. Man, that's crazy. It was like 9 when when we started here. So, yeah, it's almost 11 o'clock, and I think this is where I'm going to call this vid. That has been our trip to the World Expo. Oh, I would say that Lynn and I were discussing, instead of just doing 2 days, had we known what we know now, we would have probably done like a week long, like 5 days at least, of trying to get around. Like yesterday kind of felt like a lost day. Like we did some things, but felt like a wash. And then today, with the knowledge that we had, we were able to get quite a bit done. And the only thing that I kind of wish that was different was that if we had with all these days, maybe we would have been able to get a reservation for one of the pavilions that required reservations prior to actually getting here. That would have been nice. It's just such a horrible system that they had, particularly if you have 250,000 people coming per day. There's no way that that reservation system is going to work. And seeing how few people were in at these places during the reservations, it's like, I don't know if that was really doing what it was supposed to be doing. I guess once they hit the amount of people that they needed to attend the World Expo, they just didn't care anymore. The next one real neat thing was, as Lynn and I were walking around back to the Commons area, we walked by Serbia, and apparently that's where the next World Expo is. They have a huge countdown of when it's going to be there. I really want to go to Serbia, but I'm probably not going to go to the World Expo in Serbia. Like, I just don't care that much. I couldn't be bothered. This experience, although cool, is just, I don't know if this is something I'd be doing on the daily. So, anyhow, good night, and we will see you in the next video.